This is the Always Direct podcast, and we talk with movers and shakers of this world to learn about the ups and downs they went through to get where they are now. Let's get started with the show.
Number one, so when you were drinking, when you were back in and you still had your previous business, what was the name of your previous business?
NSB Keen. It was a terrible name.
Yeah. So when you had that business, which is hard to say and hard to remember, right? Not like Design Pickle.
Why I have a business named like this now. So
exactly. So when you had this with the other business, were you, and so like you were hustling every day, you're taking care of your family, but you were also had some bad habits that were affecting your day-to-day habits. So when you decided to shut down, start over, start fresh, how did you know that, like, you realize your mistakes, but how did you know how to fix all your mistakes? Like adding the systems, adding the procedures, adding the simplicity in your business. How did you know how to do that if you weren't able to do it before? Like, where did it come from? Partnerships, books? Right. How?
So to answer your question, I want to go probably to the 2012, 2013 part of my life. And I had hit rock bottom, details all in my book, Sober Entrepreneur. And I realized this sort of fundamental thing was like, I was causing a lot of the challenges in my life with bad habits, addictions, even making bad business decisions, like lazy hires, delegating things to people who are not even the people I should be working with and trusting in my business. And I realized, like, I'm the source of all this. Like, there is no one to blame but the guy in the mirror. But I also at least had a moment of brilliance. I'm not a brilliant guy, but I had a few moments of brilliance in my life to say, like, if I'm going to solve these problems, I need to go find a different operating system for myself. I am running an operating system that was given to me between my family upbringing, resources, environment, biology, what I learned as a business entrepreneur up until that point, which was nothing. Like, I never took a business class. I barely could read a P&L. So that was like my journey. Was like, I didn't have the right answer, but in my mind, I was like, to solve these problems, I need to upgrade myself. And so that was the first step into personal development. And the turning point became when my addictions and my challenges, like, we're all addicted to something, is what I argue. For me, it was alcohol, but you could be addicted to Netflix, porn, pizza, which is good for your business.
I'm sure. Don't stop that, guys. Everybody, do not stop the carbs.
That addiction. A bad relationship, a paycheck. But my addiction, I was like, look, this is step one, because I can't have the visions and the output and the energy and what I want to do if there's this anchor in my life. Sure. So I went through the process of solving that in 2013. Actually, October 2020 was my 7th year of sobriety.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that was like, it's like if you have a truck, but it's filled with a ton of gravel and you're like, why can't I go faster? This truck has a huge engine. This truck has a great, a technology, but it's so slow. So when I unloaded that gravel, AKA the challenges and the stresses, it gave me the foresight to then look at my business. And my business at the time was an agency that wasn't making money, that didn't have a scalable model, that didn't have a process to get the same output. I mean, it was but there was no sales process. I had terrible time retaining clients. The name was crap. So like that realization, while very obvious from the outside, I wasn't able to make until I got myself sorted. And then that's when I decided to, you know what? I'm going to close this business. I need to let it go. I need to not care about what's going to happen next, have enough confidence in myself to create something new. And that was that crazy moment, 2014. I called my partners. I walked away from a $3 million business, which is not a small business, like it would, while we weren't profitable, I was still getting a paycheck some months. I had a family, I had a house, I had all these responsibilities, but at that point, I also had one thing that I didn't over the last 8.5 years, and that wasn't confidence in myself.
Yeah. 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 So when you decided to, stop that, how long was that? How long were you not working, or you were consulting at the time? How long were you consulting, which is basically in between jobs? How long was that period? 6 months, a year?
I joke consulting is what we call an unemployed entrepreneur.
Yes.
that's what a consultant is. So it was around a year, to be honest. And actually I take that back. I consulted well into 2015. We launched Design Pickle in January 2015. I didn't quit consulting until July 2015, just because I wasn't able to pay myself enough until that point. But consulting was like a breath of fresh air for me. I just took a step back. I got really lucky with a couple good consulting gigs, more like a marketing consultant. And that's when I just then, at the nights and the weekends and the days I didn't have a consulting project I was actively working on, I started to assess all of the fundamental areas I had broken before and how I would fix them in a future business. Now, out of that consulting came the bones of Design Pickle. And the problem I was experiencing was, when I was consulting for client A on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all my other clients wouldn't be able to access me, and there would be a backlog of small design projects that they would need help with. So I created a system to solve
the ticket system, right?
Yeah. And like, this was to scratch my own itch, but I also knew the thing I wanted to do next, I wanted it to be scalable. I could teach people how to do it. I didn't want it to be reliant on Russ Perry.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a business that had value beyond my own ideas and creation and the things that I could show up and do. So when I did the consulting gigs, I was still unsure, but then I was like, I'm going to just do this thing with this inbox system for designs. It's going to make my life a little bit easier. Well, that started to grow and grow. And the turning point that I tell is, a client came up to me. He's like, Josh Rosen is his name. He's a really awesome dude here in Arizona. And he said, Russ, thanks for those business cards for our trade show. They were really great. Thanks for getting those done for me. And I had no idea what he was talking about. Like, I had never seen the project. I never delivered it. I just played it off. I was just like, yeah, you bet, Josh. Anytime, man. I got your back. But then that was the light bulb moment to say, you know what? Of all the things I said I wanted, this thing is checking a lot of the boxes. And it might not be flashy. It might not be fancy, but could this be a business? And that's when I started to dig in a little bit more. And the answers that I came to ending 2014 and then launching it in 2015 was, let's make this thing a thing and let's try to launch it to others. When
you say ticket system, could you dive a little more deeper into that? What program did you use? Or software did you actually create something?
So we just used off the shelf stuff for the first 2 years of Design Pickle. We started with Zendesk. We switched to Freshdesk. It's kind of a knockoff competitor. And Freshdesk wrote us for years. We used that. And it was just like an inbox system. We had my design team in there managing the processes and the systems. And it just like, we just build it, we launched, we had 20 clients, we got 30 clients, we got 40 clients. And this tool, the running joke though, John, it was pretty funny, is that if you figured out the email, you could just send in design requests. Like, there was no security. There was no way to tell if you were a paying client or not. Now we've since solved that problem.
Have you? Okay. Cause that was,
yeah. We have our own custom software now. And so, you can't use it unless you were a paying client, but at the time we were so small that
nobody was trying to rip you. Nobody's trying to figure out how to rip you off anyways.
And like, we could flag it. Like, my team's so Johnny on the spot, they would know immediately if there was a new client and be like, hey, where'd this client come from?
Yeah. So did you, one thing, I'm sure you've thought about this, but one of the things that I wish you guys would do, and maybe it's coming down the pipeline, or maybe it exists and I don't know about it, is that right now I have my project coordinator dealing with the morning designer and dealing with the customer. I just kind of want to connect those two and get my project kind of monitor, but not have to communicate directly with you know what I mean? Because there's got to be a way that I can,
trust me, it's coming.
Oh,
so
cool.
Don't worry.
All right.
It's going to be a different software system, but it's going to integrate with Design Pickle. Yeah. And so you'll be
white label it.
Exactly. It'll be your brand, your white label, and you'll be able to use your whole team. And whenever you need our folks, they'll plug in there, but they can deliver and work directly with the client.
Oh God, I got a little.
I've been getting this
I don't want
request
to tell you.
every day, always.
That's awesome. We need that, because that would just free up so much of our time, because that actually takes a lot of time taking the information, clarifying stuff, and then sending it over to Design Pickle. If you were paying that premium amount, it would be nice. Even more, you could charge probably whatever amount more, but it would be nice. So awesome. Yeah. And then I can't wait. I heard I was listening to a podcast this morning where you were talking about how you're bringing in video editing as well.
Yeah. Video editing and motion graphics will launch next year. We still got a long ways to go, because obviously the files, the size, the editing, the annotations, what we're going to do, but we already have programs and things going for that. And, probably not next year, maybe, fingers crossed, we'll get into copywriting as well. I think we're going to tackle that project. So you can have writers, you can creating, everyone working together. So and this is, like, back to strategy and back to why we're doing that is at the end of the day, we realize, like, it's so problematic to have all these individuals spread out. You're not sure if they're available. They don't know each other. And if we can bring everyone under one roof, it almost is like creating like a little mini agency type environment where they can work together. There's a lot of redundancy. You can grow it, you can scale it up or down. And why not have more creative services under our belt?
Well, it's not like you're opening a restaurant, you're staying within that umbrella, which is smart.
Yeah.
And you've already gotten to a point where I'm sure you have a lot more ability to grow. I don't know how are you doing in Corona with the coronavirus? Have you been okay? Have you people downscaled or?
So we experienced, obviously, like I think the whole world experienced, a retraction earlier on. And I firmly believe it was just the businesses that couldn't make it, and they just had accounts, and that was unfortunate. However, we've had incredible growth this year. In fact, we're going to beat our original numbers for 2020, even with coronavirus. And a lot of that, to me, is people being more open to alternative solutions like ours. I think a lot of people might be a little stubborn, or there might be a little bit of I don't know if I should try this or not. And now that they have to cut costs, or their designer was laid off, or they're tasked with a big rebrand because now their messaging's outdated and they got to redo everything, we've been able to fit the bill around that. And so, yeah, it's been awesome. A good opportunity for us.
Yeah. And just so the audience knows, anybody who listens to this now or in the future, this is 2020. We're talking in November of 2020. And I believe the conservative estimate for this year in the middle of a pandemic was 14 million, if I'm not mistaken. Is that true?
We'll break 16 or more.
Wow.
So
what a blessing. God bless, man. I'm so happy for you. I'm happy that you haven't been affected too much by this. Some businesses have grown, some businesses have shrunk. It's part of life. You got to adjust and adapt, right?
Yep. It's a reset. And I think if you're able to be dynamic and you're able to rethink, my sister, she has she's in hospitality. She has a bar here in Arizona, Gracie's Tax Bar. If there's any Arizona listeners, go check it out. But, she was a 4 p.m. to late last call type place. She's now hosting outdoor events during the daytime. She's going to do a bigger food menu throughout the day. She's adapting, and they're doing great. And they're in the middle of the most challenging industry, like you with food and beverage. It's so hard. But I think that's the key, is like when you face these challenges, you have to be able to move and pivot. If what you're doing is truly valuable, you'll be able to figure out a plan no matter what the challenges come.
Very true. Very true. I believe that myself. It's sometimes hard to see through the weeds of life and all the news. You just got to shut the news off and just believe that it's all going to work out. And this is not here forever. It's temporary. It's just temporary.
And it's happened a lot, just not in our lifetimes, but this is like part of humanity. These things have happened throughout civilization, and you get stronger, you figure it out, and you just keep going.
That's right. I wanted to jump into So the first half is I want to focus on the business, but then I also want to go into the mindset and self-development. But when you first started, so you had just shut down the business, you took a year off consulting, and while you were doing the consulting, you stopped drinking, you cleaned up your act, you mended relationships, and you decided to do something that's more scalable, hands off, less reliant on you and your personality, and less demanding on your personally taking care of everything. At that point, when you started your next business, did you take on a partner? Design Pickle has a partner?
No.
No. Okay. I didn't think so. But so how many employees did you start off with? Did you open an office? Did you stay? I know you bootstrapped it, but were you by yourself?
Yeah. So it was just me and my two remote contractors who lived in the Philippines. That was where we ended up finding team members. It wasn't by design. And that was pretty much the case through most of 2015. We had grown those folks and that team to maybe 10 people by the end of the year. And that's when I brought on my first US team member who's still with us today. He's our VP of Culture, Jim Petticone. Gave him a little bit of skin in the game to come aboard. We were still pretty virtual. I had a co-working office for a while until that became really annoying because everyone just wanted to talk to me all the time and I couldn't actually get work done. So then I rented a 8x8 room. My wife called the prison cell in my buddy's warehouse. There was no windows. It was the door with the window that was like this big that you could see. And he was so strict about the air conditioning because he was so cheap. And he would never turn it down. And it was so hot in this room. And I'm in Arizona, guys. So this is like, we're talking, 85-ish degrees in this little room, which is not comfortable. So there were times we were just shirtless working in this office, getting things done. We weren't making videos. We weren't doing Zooms. It was a lot of hustle, me and Jim. But then, that's when we started to really pick up stride. We continue to hire. We actually hired a few remote folks in Arizona. Today, we're a fully remote company, over 550 folks around the globe. And then as far as like funding and financing, we were pretty much self-funded from the beginning. Year 3, we looked at debt and we actually worked with a company called Lighter Capital to access some debt lending, revenue-based lending, which is pretty popular right now, which was no risk for us because you basically just pay a percentage of what you receive. So if you have a great month, you pay more. If you have a low month, your payments adjust. And it's not cheap. It's like a college credit card type APRs is what I always say. But it gave us access to capital in a really unique way that didn't dilute me, didn't dilute anyone, was super easy to use and deploy. And the thing about that, and let me warn anyone who's going out to get capital, is you should get it because you know how to use it. Like for us, we got it because we saw our conversion funnels and our growth, and we knew what we could do to sell more. And like, that's why we got it. If you get money to just play around and experiment, you're going to waste it and you're going to owe a lot of money and have not much to show for it. So we waited until we had a clear way to use it and then deploy.
Definitely. Russ, I want to go back a little bit so you and Jim. So in the beginning, it was just you and two designers. What'd you say, 4 months, 6 months, and then you brought on Jim?
Yeah, I think he came aboard in August or September 2015.
Okay. And so that's about 8, 9 months. And then, so at that point, why did you bring on Jim? What was because you brought on your first US employee. That's not a joke. I mean, that's a big deal because you got to pay him. I mean, you got to pay him in US dollars. You got to pay him, all the necessary taxes and work comp and all that stuff. So why did you bring him on? What did he bring to the table? Now he's in charge of culture, but back then I'm sure he was wearing multiple hats.
Yeah. So first thing to know about Jim is I've known him since I was 14 years old. We met at summer school before starting high school together. And so I've known this guy forever. And so for me I needed to pick someone I could just trust from day one. I didn't need to pick someone that I had to prove themselves. And Jim was all in. Like, he heard about what we were doing. He was actually in a marketing role prior to Design Pickle. He was like, I could have used you guys. I wish I would have known about this. Here's how all in Jim was. I couldn't pay him his full salary, and he knew that. So we agreed on what we could pay. He sold his house to then come work for me and lived off that cash. We obviously booked his revenue on the balance sheet. So I paid it back eventually, but this shows you the commitment of somebody. Him and his wife sold his house so he had enough cash in the bank to live off of until Design Pickle could catch up and pay him what he needed.
Wow.
That's the kind of guy you want to bring on as your number one person.
That's huge.
So he's been a utility player, man. He is a jack of all trades. He's handled marketing. He's handled CS. Every time we grew and we were launching kind of more of a dedicated division, I would hand that role off to him and he would take charge of it. We've since found his home. Ultimately his home is developing people, managing the culture, building that internationally. That's where he'll be until, we grow and sell this thing. But for me, if you're early team, if you're under 10 people, you don't need to find the world-class expert in a specific area. You need to find the person who has a high work ethic, who you can trust to put on an assignment that gets you off of those projects, that then allows you to stay and to do what you can do. So when I brought Jim on, now I was able to do more marketing and sales work. Jim was helping with clients, and then, supporting on the back end with the production team. Then we hired more people. He took on other roles, and that's just kind of how it went as we grew.
Which brings me to the next. Well, so you brought on Jim, and while you're setting up this business and you're starting to have clients coming in, you're creating systems and constantly tweaking things so that you're creating something that's new. So like you can't copy anything. So you have to change the systems. You have to add new software. You have to add new ways of approaching things. When you bring on new people, you have to train them, and you don't necessarily. And you told me that you didn't really know how P&Ls work. So how were you? What the hell? How were you handling all this? I mean, now I realize you can outsource some of it, but you just said that you book some of his pay onto the balance sheet to pay later on. I mean, how did you know how to do that and set that up?
You make up a lot, that's for sure. But let's come back to
you make it, folks.
Yeah, make it till you make it. So I again came to that realization that I had in 2013, and this was, look, if this is my thing, like I got a second chance on life. I have a business that's working. I love it. It's fun. It's fulfilling me. I don't know what I don't know, and I need to go back to that game of investing in myself to grow. So that was 2015. And in July of 2015, I found a personal development program called Warrior, and found out that this was going to be something that I was really, really into. And so this was a men's group, mastermind type group. It's a lot different today than it was back then. Today it's more just like an online kind of experience, but there's dozens of them, and it doesn't matter which one you choose. There's not one right one. That was right for me. But inside of that, I started working on myself as a leader, in the home, as a dad, as a father, because how you show up there is how you show up at work. And I developed those soft skills through personal development, while always continuing to work on my hard skills, reading books about finance, reading books about marketing, learning from people that are further down the road than me. And there was nothing I was afraid of or shy away from. I can create crazy financial forecast models now. I don't do it. I have a finance director that does it, but I'm comfortable doing it. I can get into paid advertising. I was the first paid advertising manager of Design Pickle. How did I do it? I took online courses and I learned how to do it. And then I started doing it. And that's what I learned as I've grown is I don't want to not know how these parts of my businesses work. I don't need to do them always, but I need to understand them. And so it was just nonstop growth on the knowledge and personal development side. And it continues to this day. Like I study from anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour every day on new things. I finished a book last month on writing, like grammar, clearer sentences. It was a Harvard Business Review book on writing for business. Not very exciting. I just read it at lunch. I'd work on it at lunchtime down in our kitchen here at the office. So like, that's how you continue to grow your business is you have to continue to grow yourself.
So what were your like most life-changing experiences with regard to self-development? Was it a book that you've read, or give me the top like 2 or 3?
Yeah, I mean,
Wake Up Warrior, probably.
Yeah, Wake Up Warrior was one. That was number two. I think getting sober was number one. That's definitely a personal development move.
Sure.
And how I did that was a combination of, the standard programs. There's AA, there's Celebrate Recovery. What I say, if anyone's struggling with addiction, just find a group that you can affiliate with and you don't have to hide anything, that was the best part about those groups, was that I could just talk openly and there was no judgment, and it helped me process things. I don't actively participate in them anymore. A self personal development program, which was Wake Up Warrior. But there's lots of those kinds of things, the Tony Robbins kind of stuff. There's a company in Arizona, totally blanking in the name. I'll come to it a little bit, but I mean, there's great ones. There's also scammy ones. So you just got to kind of be careful of what you do. Like if it's a 23-year-old promising riches and how he's made so much money on YouTube cell phone videos, probably not what you want to go after.
Yeah.
Landmark Education. That's the one out of Arizona. And then professional development. And I think for me, that was joining up with peers, like in my industry, in my business, understanding my challenges in my life season too. That's important. I'm married with kids and I'm in that phase. I got a 15-year-old, I got 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. If I'm pairing up with a 65-year-old whose kids are all grown and he's now a grandpa, I could have a lot of wisdom from him or her, but it's not going to be as applicable to my life.
Sure.
So it's like, getting healthy, personal development, and then peer accountability inside of professional development. And I think like joining a peer group was like, I can't say there's one specific one, because I've been in EO, I've been in Vistage, I've done a lot. I'm in one now called Startup AZ. It's local to startups in Arizona, but those to me are powerful. And I have about 3 or 4 guys in my circle that I'm running on the same race with, and that helps me keep really focused and accountable.
Definitely. And I did forget to mention that, we're both entrepreneurs. We're about the same age. Mm-hmm. And, I've started a bunch of different businesses, and, sometimes I call myself, chasing a shiny red balloon, so you kind of go down that rabbit hole and you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing? How did I get into the trucking business?
Yeah. Right. Dude, I have so many, the business graveyard of Russ Perry is filled.
Yeah.
Like the point is, like, the more you're able to have outside perspective, the more you're able to ensure you don't go chasing down those shiny red balloons.
Definitely. And I also wanted to mention, I have 3 daughters as well. So,
awesome.
Yeah. 9 years old, 5 years old, and 4 years old. So,
dude, you're jam packed.
Yeah. Same with you. We're in the same boat, different ages, but not that much different. And, one of the things that, when I read your book, I actually listened through Audible. Are you a reader or more of an Audible kind of guy?
More so reader. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you an active reader where you're highlighting, or are you just?
So my process is to just read a book once through, and then I go back and I make notes. I do it all on one piece of paper and just make notes there.
Gotcha. So your 14-year-old, did you give her a phone yet? Does she have a phone?
Yeah, we've worked our way up. So she's actually 15 and she's a sophomore in high school. She got a unoperable phone, basically an iPod, when she was in 7th grade. So she only could use it she had no iMessage, she had nothing. It was just basically like music. And then she got a SIM card going into high school. That was like the big moment for her.
Oh yeah. I'm getting lobbied really, really hard by a 9-year-old, and she's starting to wear out. I know. I am. There's no way, but it's starting to wear me out a little bit. I'm like, what am I going to do?
An old like iPhone 5, find one online that's like barely functional and no SIM card, nothing. And just be like, all right, here you go.
Yeah. But they want TikTok. And I'm like, your mind is going to be messed up if you're on TikTok at 9 years old. I mean,
probably won't run on an iPhone 5. That's what I'm saying. Find the oldest iPhone that you can get and give it to her and fulfill her request, but outsmart her with it.
Gotcha. Yeah. Maybe I will. Maybe that's the only way. That's the only way to get her off my back. Or like
an old Nokia with just Snake, man. You remember the old Nokia?
Oh gosh.
Like, all right, here's a phone. You said you wanted a phone.
She'd be happy for like a week or two, I think, for sure. And then she'd come back to the lobbying. So, all right. Well, let me ask you another couple questions. paid ads. So what's your biggest form of marketing? Not now, let's say 2016. All right. 2015, I'm sure it was a lot of cold calls. Well, let's start 2015 and then go to 2016. What was your main source of marketing? How much were you spending each week or each month? And what was your, how did you grow it? How did you scale that up?
Yep. For all of us, for the first year, it was, one-on-one relationships. I don't think that's any different for any startup. You're just hitting your Rolodex. You're just asking people. I'd guess blogging, that was helpful. So articles on other people's blogs that they would publish with my information. And they'd be okay if I put a little call to action, like, hey, learn more about what we do, graphic design services, check this out. We went right into Facebook advertising, which rolled right into Instagram. Obviously, there's kind of the same thing. And that's been our driver, really. We're working to shift to more targeted account-based outbound sales. So we don't really have that set up right now. We've been testing things all this year. This is not the year necessarily to test an outbound sales team. It's been a little wild. People are busy, but we're going to get back to that next year, refining our strategy. And if I'm looking at the future of it, I think paid is more a branding. You come to our site, you obviously hit with retargeting ads, but then we're just going after accounts. Like, we just basically target folks. And the $100 million version of Design Pickle is only 10,000 subscriptions. So it's not like it's this crazy, we have to have 1 billion people to be a big company. Like, our dollars and our margins and everything are there. So 10,000 folks, we're at 3,500, going from 10,000 to 35 to 10,000 is like a realistic plan. And we can find those folks. I mean, there's 10,000 bodies in Chicago right now that could use us. So getting more targeted, it's going to help improve our ad spend. It's going to help improve our conversion rates. And so what we want is the ad spend to boost the targeted sales efforts, not necessarily be the frontline efforts, which it is today. And it's still successful, but we see increase in costs. We see a lot of privacy things happening, making it harder to target folks. So we want to try to hedge our bets there.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. So when you were first starting out with Facebook ads and targeting, what was your marketing budget when you started spending money on marketing?
I didn't even really have a budget. It was just like, what does $500 get us? All right, let's do more. Let's do more. What I will say is we always made sure that we were profitable. And at first we started with pay per lead. So we had an agency we worked with and we paid this guy per lead. So I think it was $8 or $12 per qualified lead. That worked for a while until he started to sort of kind of figure out a way to work the system a little bit, where the qualified leads were coming in, but they weren't actually as qualified as we had hoped.
Sure.
So, but that was a really great win-win. And I think if anyone's starting paid advertising, find someone who will be down for a pay for performance compensation model. And the only way that you can do that is if you're very clear on who you're going after.
Sure.
So then we switched to more doing it ourselves, and it's been a learning process ever since. Actually, I got an interview today. We're going to be hiring a full-time digital demand director to take over, because we're multi-channel. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Google. We want to get into more niche stuff as well. But today, I think we spend around $200,000 or $300,000 a month on ads. So it's
200 to 300.
Yeah, so it's grown.
Of course,
this year's been much more expensive, so we haven't increased that too much this year because we don't see the performance come out of it. But,
gotcha. So what's your sales cycle like? So you put up the ads on Facebook or on Insta, and then are they filling out a form? Are they downloading something? What's the next step, and how long does it take to close in general?
I don't have those metrics dialed in, but here's what I know is if you are coming to us, like direct, right? Like you've heard about us or found out, or you're not coming through an ad or anything, 30% of that traffic converts within a day.
Yeah.
So it's like hot leads, people buy. From there, it takes sometimes a year for someone to buy. The reason simply is we are usually a service that someone already has a solution for. So our best clients have a creative resource currently. If you're like, mom and pop, we just got fired and we're starting our first thing and we don't know any creatives, and we go to Google, where do I hire a creative? That is not a good client for us. We don't want to be your first time. Go learn how to work with creatives with someone else and then come to us. So we will nurture folks for a long time who know about us, who could use us, but their current provider is doing just fine. And then it's like direct mail. Actually, I use direct mail as an example. It's like, the packs of like fix your garage, fix your window, fix your blinds, those companies. The reason they do weekly mailers is for when those things break. And then that's the ad that you have in your mailbox. So we do the same thing. Our advertising is just awareness. And then when a client runs aground with their current creative, we want to be present and in their mindset and say, oh, hey, I'm going to go try Design Pickle.
And is the majority of your ads video or?
All mix. Video does perform pretty well, but again, it's getting really hard to, the cost is so much higher today than it was at the beginning of the year because everyone's doing it.
Sure. Definitely. So what software? Okay, I got a question. I wrote this down. What kind of software? So when you first started, you definitely wanted to make sure that it was scalable and systemized, right? But at first it was just you, a couple of designers, and you brought on Jim. At that early stage, and I'd like to focus on the early stage, all right? Yep. Because once you get big, you can spend money on anything you need, or you can hire somebody to do it for you and figure it out for you. But when you're bootstrapping, that's really where that's where everything magical happens, to get through that hump. So I'd like to focus on that area. And so what softwares were you using to systemize and how were you keeping track of everything? Did you know how to use everything or did you have to learn things?
Yeah. So like we mentioned, Freshdesk was a great one. A tool we still use today is Intercom. So that's like our customer support, client management. Slack came on early. That's a tool we use to chat with our team members around the world. And then I think we had, I don't want to say it's MailChimp, but maybe that's what we use to start for like our marketing and email. Early on, we jumped aboard with Infusionsoft's product. I don't recommend it now. But that was a tool we used. Yeah, that was like the primary suite of tools, and all of them are pretty straightforward. Infusionsoft, the CRM tool there, that was the hardest one to get a handle on. And then we worked with like implementation agencies and third-party folks. We actually use HubSpot now, and that's what's why HubSpot is an easy choice is because there's just a great support network around it internally and externally. So
you're using HubSpot right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, did you leave them and come back? Because I think I just heard you say somewhere, I don't know where I heard it, that you weren't using it anymore.
We actually left, went to ActiveCampaign, and then came back to HubSpot after we realized we should have never left. The problem why we left is we just didn't have an internal person owning it, and it kind of was like the like brush it under, like who owns it? No one's really using it. We're paying a lot of money. It's not cheap. So we switched to a cheaper tool, which ended up just costing us more money anyway. So we should have just stayed in the first place.
I use Zoho. I don't know if have you any familiar with it?
No, we do. I think if I had a different kind of business, Zoho would be really great for what we do. For your business, knowing even both businesses, the pizzas and the direct mail, I think that's a great tool and it's good company.
You know what? It's my first time using a CRM ever. I had no idea what I'm doing with
Welcome to 2003.
Well, I'm in the pizza business for the last 15 years. I haven't seen a Super Bowl. We got to close up at 12 or sooner, whatever. Do you have another meeting?
Just a reminder to drink water. I'm always dehydrated, so I've set a timer to do that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, wrapping up at the top of the hour would be great.
Awesome. No problem. And I appreciate your time, man. So Freshdesk, Intercom, Slack, and then HubSpot. Those are the four that you used, and you had them all integrated through a company to come help you kind of integrate them and fix up your systems.
Mainly the CRM. The other ones are pretty straightforward. Intercom gets a little squirrely if you're building it into your application, if you have a software application that you're wanting your clients to interface with. But, I kind of did it all myself at the beginning. It's a little weird, like going into the code of your website and copying and pasting things, but everything is pretty self-explanatory. And then like Slack, you just can use straight out of the gates. And it's not same with Freshdesk, super simple.
Cool. And so you guys use I'm assuming a voice over IP telephone system so that you guys all can communicate through, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot through Slack, but you guys call each other quite a bit, I'm sure.
Or Slack and Zoom. Actually, all of our phone numbers are managed by Zoom. We use their VoIP product. So
really,
yeah, they launched it last year, I think. And I mean, how we're chatting today is 95% of my day. I am on Zooms all day long. In fact, it's weird for me if I see a meeting invite and there's just a dial-in number, I'm almost annoyed. I'm like, what? I gotta get my phone out and call somebody. Like, this is so old school.
So you would just, yeah. So when the virus hit, you guys were ready for that. I mean, you guys didn't affect your business at all on your internally.
Operationally, we were 90% set up for remote work, except we just had a big group coming into the office every day. So when we closed the office and we just said, hey, work from home, the next day everyone was online, but that's how 90% of our company was. So it wasn't that much of a difference for most.
Wow. Interesting. So I thought all your designers were in the Philippines, but I found out in the last podcast, which was 6 months ago, I think it was, that you actually have them in India, Mexico, Thailand, Philippines. Is that true? All over the place?
South Africa, soon to be Portugal, Argentina, Colombia, Chile, and growing. So yeah, we diversify. I'll give you a great example why. Right now, there's a huge typhoon that just hit the Philippines last night or yesterday. And our global team was able, because they're out of power. Thankfully, everyone's safe. We had a big check-in this morning on it. But like their infrastructure got hit pretty hard. They'll probably be without a power anywhere from 1 to 3 days. So we're able to divert all that work to our other team members around the globe to help out. It is a little bit slower. We can't get as much done, but we expect, by Monday we'll be back to normal. And if we were concentrated in one country, we would have been really stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have 3,500 people, 3,500 businesses depending on you. You cannot be off for a week.
Yeah. We're an essential resource for some of our businesses. We can't just shut things down for them. So we're really, I think I look at, the value proposition of Design Pickle. And that's one thing I'm the most proud of, is that we're there for you, and like this weekend, we've allocated overtime pay for our creatives to get caught up, to be able to fund that. We have a private fund that we save money aside for natural disasters in any country, that any team member can apply for funding. Let's say there's flooding or something they need help with. But we have our team covered and we have our clients covered. And, I can't tell you how many times, even when I was running a creative business, I would get burned by creatives. I would get burned by people who would not deliver on time, who would go MIA, who would, leave me hanging. And that was the core reason why I started to Design Pickle, was just to not to say every designer or every creative out there is like that. But John, I'm sure you've worked with a lot of people, they exist, and it sucks. It sucks when you get left hanging and you need to send something to print. There's a last minute opportunity. So that's what we strive for, is just to like, we got your back. And yeah, there's going to be bumps in the road, like a global typhoon that hits a whole country and takes it out, but we're going to try to figure out a solution around it.
Definitely. So did you expand into all these other countries because this has happened in the past, or did you run out of people in that country that could meet your criteria?
It was twofold. It was diversification of risk, and it was also more because we understood, like with the pro plan that you have, the real time chat. If we didn't have designers on our time zones, we would be asking Filipino designers to be working the graveyard shift to support that, and that's a bad lifestyle. You know, that's unhealthy for their families, unhealthy for them.
That's actually what I thought was happening.
Yeah. So we moved into Latin America so that like it's just easier to find folks. And truthfully, it's, you know, I love both groups. We're one big family, but the culture in Latin America has a lot of similarities with the culture in Asia where we're at. And so that worked out really well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always thought that they were just waking up in graveyard shift. I said, man, these guys, the work ethic is unreal, you know? So are you, how many clients do you have that are not in the US?
I would say less than 10%. I don't know the exact number. So 3 or 4 or 500 probably is a safe estimate.
Have you tried to, are you marketing out there or are you just focusing?
You know, we are. It just takes a lot of infrastructure to really support people that way. And there's endless opportunity here. So the English speaking countries are going to be where we head first, and looking at the UK, Australia. Selfishly, being able to travel there once that's allowed again won't be a bad thing. So, but you know, there's no reason for us to, other than maybe because we want to be there and put that on our website. Cause there's enough clients. Like I said, there's enough clients in Chicago that we could just focus on that.
Sure. You haven't penetrated the entire market yet, and you will, I'm sure.
Yeah. And we don't even need to either. Like that's the cool thing, is we don't have to penetrate the entire market. We penetrate a fraction of a percent and we're good.
Yeah. I mean, you want to have quality of life. You want to have a big business that you're proud of, and you want to make enough money to do everything you want to do. But bigger is not always better, you know. Exactly. And you want to be able to. Are you still doing the Pickle Fest, by the way?
Oh, this is a lot. You know, it'll come back. It'll come back. We'll have a big like when the timing's right. Obviously, our plans got delayed on that one.
Yeah. I'm sure. You know, everything's messed up right now. And I appreciate you coming on the show, everybody. Russ Perry, Design Pickle. Do not hesitate if you are in any need of design work. I'm a true testament to it. It's awesome. Go to designpickle.com and sign up right away.
Absolutely. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, Russ.
Thanks for listening to the Always Direct podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.